Welcome to episode 2 of the J&J Podcast. And before we get into episode 2, I just want to take the time to thank everybody that tuned into our pilot episode last week, episode 1 of the J&J Podcast. And also, too, just before we get into the episode today, just want to let you all know this will actually be a condensed podcast episode. My dad is actually out sick this week, but if all goes well, hopefully he'll be back next week for week 3 and episode 3 of the J&J Podcast. But also, too, to help with the flow of today's episode, I have my guy Zach here. This is actually my best friend and a friend of the family, and he'll also be a guest on some of the future episodes. Zach, I appreciate you being here, my guy, and I'm also really looking forward to having you on future episodes, for real, bro.
Of course, bro. I'm excited too.
Yes, sir.
So first off, I know we've talked about it, but we need to get into this cat trade. So give me your thoughts. It was Karl Anthony Towns for Dante DiVincenzo, Julius Randle, and a future first round pick.
Yeah, bro. I'm gonna be honest. Like that Karl Anthony Towns trade is still kind of shocking to me. Especially given the way the Timberwolves ended last year. Like I kind of just thought, with the addition of Robert Dillingham, they're pretty much gonna keep the same team. And also too, just seeing like Karl Anthony Towns' reaction on Twitter, I don't think he saw it coming either. But I will say, and this is going to be a very bold take, because I've seen mixed opinions on both sides. But I do feel like long term, the Timberwolves actually were the winners of this trade. And like I said, I do think it's a win-win, trade for both teams. But I just look at, how good the Timberwolves played last year in the playoffs, and even their series that they ended up winning, against the Nuggets, like as good as Karl Anthony Towns was in that series, he didn't just have any really crazy games. It was pretty much a team effort. And I will say this, I just feel like going long term, now pretty much everybody knows that it's Anthony Edwards' team. And what people have to also realize about this trade is too, Karl Anthony Towns will be a good fit for the Knicks and what they're trying to do. And also too, like he's a big that can stretch the floor. Mitchell Robinson is not going to be able to stretch the floor like that, like Karl Anthony Towns can. But the Timberwolves are getting a motivated Julius Randle. Like I feel like people forget how good Julius Randle was before he ended up getting hurt last season. And
Yep.
then I feel like the biggest part of the trade that people aren't really paying attention to is the Dante DiVincenzo aspect of and piece of that trade. Like the Timberwolves now coming off their bench potentially, this all depends on if Dante DiVincenzo starts or not. But you now have for the Timberwolves like a 6 man of the year candidate type of player in Dante DiVincenzo. I mean, imagine that backcourt off the bench pairing him with Robert Dillingham and just all the different
Yeah.
lineup combinations they can have going forward. So it's just like, you're not only getting a motivated Julius Randle, but you're getting a guy that can fit in pretty much any offensive system. Like DiVincenzo was a great fit when he was, with the Warriors. You saw what he did this past, season for the Knicks. I just feel like, he's gonna bring some very needed depth that the Timberwolves are kind of lacking, and you kind of saw that throughout the playoffs. Like really, I know we've talked about it in the past, but what really was the catalyst of winning a lot of those playoff series last year was the role players, and having a guy like Dante DiVincenzo now for the Timberwolves. I just feel like long term takes that team to the next level. And then the last aspect of too is like nobody's really talking about it. They get a first round pick. And
Yep.
if people look, the last couple of years, the Timberwolves have drafted very well. They got Robert Dillingham this past year. They drafted Anthony Edwards. They drafted Jaden McDaniels. That's my guy. So it's just like they've drafted very well. And I feel like now you're just giving them pretty much an extra first round pick. And we've talked about it too, but people don't realize how important those first round picks are now with the first and second apron rules and all the new CBA
Definitely.
agreement stuff. So yeah, like I feel like it's overall a win-win trade for both sides, but I will say I think the Timberwolves are ultimately going to be the biggest winners long term.
I agree with that
Yeah.
because Cat's what, 30, 31.
Mm-hmm.
That value is going to start decreasing faster and faster the older he gets.
Yeah.
And it was inevitable that somebody had to get traded
Mm-hmm.
because sure you beat the Nuggets, that's just matchup wise. Because as soon as they get to the Mavericks, they get smacked
Facts.
because you can't run Gobert and Towns, and there just became that issue. So it made sense that he got moved. The DiVincenzo thing is a little interesting because I heard rumors that he didn't want to stay with the Knicks because he would have a lessened role.
Yeah.
And if he comes off the bench in Minnesota, it's kind of the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like Mike Conley, it would make sense for him to still start given his age still because
Yeah.
he fits in the system and he's like it's familiar. But yeah, it's interesting. But I guess we both just really had to see how it plays out, especially those first couple months. But
Yeah.
speaking of another Minnesotan team, the Lynx going over to the WNBA. They played the Sun last night. Let me get your thoughts on that, Jay.
Oh yeah, first off, I just gotta give a huge shout out to Napheesa Collier, man, winning Defensive Player of the Year. And I will say this, like I know Asia Wilson had a phenomenal season, arguably the best season we've ever seen from a single player in WNBA history. But I will say I think next year Napheesa Collier is gonna be my MVP pick going into the season. Just the way that she's able to score the ball, like her footwork, the pace that she plays with, it's like I mean, I know the last couple of years, the top two names in the W have been Brianna Stewart and Asia Wilson, but Napheesa Collier is here, man. Like even what's it called last week? Like we didn't get to talk about this, but her having 42 points bro in the playoff game is absolutely outrageous. But even yeah, but to your question about last night's game. I'll be honest, and I'm just gonna go and throw this out there. I still think the Lynx have a chance to win that series. It's like and we've talked about this in the past. The Connecticut Sun, their style of playing, their defense is just wild. Like, Dejanay Carrington is one of the best defenders in the entire league. DeWanna Bonner, she's 6'4". Like you saw, they put her on Caitlin Clark in that Fever series, and even last night, like they had her all over the court, guarding Napheesa Collier, guarding Kayla McBride, some of the other players. So they're just a very good defensive team, but the upside for the Lynx is they didn't shoot that well from three, and they literally that game came all the way down to the wire. And I feel like the biggest adjustment they need to make going forward is putting an emphasis on stopping transition buckets because the Sun, I mean, Mabry hit 4 or 5 threes last night, but outside of that, it's not like they just shot overall lights out. A lot of their points just came off of defensive stops and scoring in transition. So I feel like if Napheesa Collier can continue to be very aggressive and Caleb McBride can get it going a little bit more, they'll be fine. And I do still pick the Sun to win this series though, but I'm not counting the Lynx out. Like I think this could actually end up going to game 5 and be a full complete series.
I think so too. Like
Yeah.
I watched bits and pieces of the game. I didn't watch
Mm,
the full thing, but like I saw that last play, it came down to the wire, like you said, and it looked like they were going for a quick two because they had time.
yeah.
But it broke down. It definitely broke down when Collier had the ball at the top of the key. But like she pulled it back out with seconds left and then tried to throw up a three. Like it was a winnable game. So it'll be interesting to see where that series goes.
For sure. And then the other game too, like this is actually a series I was really looking forward to was, the Liberty and the Aces. And I made the mistake on episode 1, but I forgot like the playoff format and the playoff matchups. That was actually my WNBA finals pick. So the fact we're already getting that series now is crazy. But I will say I'm not gonna because I still picked the Aces to win it all this year. And I'm not gonna hit the panic button because, you know, they lost that game by 10 points. Brianna Stewart, shout out to her too, 34 points. And
Shout out
Ionescu,
to Stewie.
yeah, fact. Shout out to Stewie. And then Ionescu had 21. I mean, especially in the WNBA, because their games aren't as high scoring, when you give up 55 out of 78 points to two players, bro, like that's a recipe for disaster. But I will say for the Aces, bro, like I think, Asia Wilson's Asia Wilson. Like I said it last week on episode 1. Like I feel like it's gonna be hard for any team to be able to contain her for a complete playoff series. So I expect her to have at least probably a 30-point double bounce back game in game 2. But I will say the biggest X factor for the Aces, and if they're gonna have any chance of actually coming back and winning this series, is gonna be Chelsea Gray. Like 4 points and 3 assists is that's not moving the needle for me, and it's not gonna get the job done. Just being completely honest with you, like they got 21 from Asia Wilson, they got 24 from Kelsey Plum. Jackie Young hit some timely threes, but if they're actually going to end up winning this series and then long term winning the actual championship and three-peating, Chelsea Gray has to be more aggressive. She like 4 points. She had, in my opinion, for the Aces to actually have a chance to not only win this series but win after this. She's gonna need to average at least anywhere from 15 points to around 6 or 7 assists, like we're accustomed to seeing out of her. Because if she doesn't do that, I don't think the Aces have enough to be able to compete with Vandersloot and Ionescu and Jonquel Jones, and just even if they end up winning this series, like if Kelsey Plum's not playing well and then Chelsea Gray's not playing well, also combined with that, like they don't have any chance of being the Lynx or the Sun. So we'll see, but I expect Chelsea Gray to turn it around. It's just she needs to do it sooner rather than later.
Right. There's not
Yeah.
a lot of time left.
Mm-hmm.
So, but next up, you got the firing of Teresa Witherspoon.
Yeah.
Doesn't really make a lot of sense, but go ahead and dive into that.
Yo, honestly, like, bro, whenever I saw that news, that was more shocking to me than the Karl Anthony Towns trade, because it's just like, I'm not gonna say Chicago Sky fan, but it's like I was really rooting for how they had drafted this past year, the season that they had, and I've been saying this for the past couple months. I feel like they're really like one or two pieces away. They really just need a go-to scorer. They don't have a go-to scorer on that team outside of Kennedy Carter, but the fact that before the All-Star break, like Angel Reese was a lot of people's pick for Rookie of the Year. You saw the season that she had. You saw Cardosa continue to be able to develop, and like I said, their leading scorer, shout out to Kennedy Carter, like she took that next step this year. But I just feel like long term, I just don't understand how you hire somebody like that, like Teresa Witherspoon. She, like, the players clearly love playing for her. Like I saw, Angel Reese's comments, and what Kennedy Carter and some of the other players said after they found out the news over the weekend too. But I just feel like long term, I don't know what direction the Chicago Sky are trying to go into. And I just feel like, firing a coach after that, after one season, when literally if Angel Reese doesn't get hurt, pretty much to end out close out the season. Same with Kennedy Carter, like easily the Sky would have made the playoffs over the Atlanta Dream. And it's like, if those unforeseen circumstances don't happen, like they're literally in the playoffs. So for you to fire that coach like that after one season, it's baffling to me, bro. Like it still don't sit right with me, honestly. But it'll be very interesting to see who the next coach is going to be, and then also too, like I just mentioned, what direction the Sky are even going to, because I have a lot of questions about what they're doing in that front office.
Yeah, I I really think like when it comes to owners and general managers and the suits that make all these decisions with firings and hirings, like they don't really value the ability that a coach has to make connections and like player build.
Yeah.
Like sure they look at it from the numbers standpoint, but like you said, if Angel Reese doesn't get hurt, that record doesn't go to what it goes to.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's been happening a lot lately in NBA, WNBA, but coaches get fired too quickly and they're not given enough time to really have a fair shake. So,
Facts. I completely
but
agree.
speaking of things that make no sense, Ole Miss losing at home to Kentucky.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, like, and I we talked about Kentucky last week, because I mean, people got to realize, as good as Ole Miss was, and of course they were the clear favorites heading into that game. Kentucky was literally 2 minutes away from being Georgia less than 2 weeks ago. And at the time, Georgia was number 2 or number 1 in the country. I think that was a week before Texas ended up taking the number 1 spot. But like, I'm really not shocked that Kentucky won. It's also too, Kentucky's one of those SEC teams that, even though they're not ranked in the top 25 right now, like they just match up well to a lot of different teams. Their style of play, they're well coached. So I'm genuinely not shocked that they, were able to upset Ole Miss. And I will say, like, there are some bad losses in college football. I'm not gonna say it's the end of the world for Ole Miss. It's not like they just got mopped the floor with. Like, it was still a pretty competitive game. And like I said, everyone that knows college football knows Kentucky is a team you can never count out or sleep on, just because of their matchups, and they're very well coached. But speaking of games that I was very disappointed about, bro, and I'm a Carolina fan, so I'm biased, but my dad alluded to this last week. Mac Brown, bro, there's no way out of this one. You're done. Watching that game, bro, like, for you to lose to James Madison like in the fashion that you did, and then to come out the following week and pretty much in the second half put up a complete stinker, bro. It just, I don't even know how they allowed that man back on a bus at Chapel Hill. I'm very disappointed. The fact that you were up 20-0 in that game, you don't score any more after that, and you give up 21 straight points to Duke, bro. That joint just did not sit right with me. And like I said, to make matters worse, it's two things. You already coming off a loss where you allowed James Madison to put up 70 points. And then it's not like we're just playing like Clemson or a team like that. You're playing literally your rivals in Duke. It's like, that's a game where you should have won, bro. Like, so I'm going to be honest, going forward, I still have faith in our quarterback situation and our players. I just don't trust Mac Brown, bro. Those are two terrible losses. And it's like I alluded to this last week. When you're losing, college football right now is all about NIL and getting transfers. When you're losing games like that, bro, like nobody's gonna want to come transfer and play at Carolina, bro. I'm just gonna be completely honest with you. So that's just something to monitor going forward. Now, I don't know if Carolina's going to start looking in a different direction with Mac Brown, but I feel like it's time, bro. Like he's already shown me and proven to me what kind of coach he's gonna be, and long term, bro. I don't feel like he's the he's the I don't feel like he has the recipe for success for the Carolina college football program going forward.
I don't think
Yeah,
so either.
yeah, I'm very disappointed still, bro.
You know
Um,
that game was circled months ago, and to
yep.
come off James Madison and then do that,
Just
sad.
nasty work, bro. Um, and then because I know we'll save the game of the week for last, but the other
Yep.
game, and I'll be honest, most people probably picked up on this on episode 1, but I'm very biased. I'm a huge Colorado fan, but I'm just over the moon, bro. Just seeing the way Colorado was able to come out and just dominate UCF, bro. Like, because I'm gonna be honest, that was a game where on paper they were pretty much the underdogs in that game. So for them to not only come out and win that game, but to win it in the fashion that they did, bro, putting up 42 points. Shout out to Shador Sanders, man. That brother is special. And I'm just gonna double down on what I said last week, bro. They can't fool me. I'm familiar with his game already. Travis Hunter is still the clear cut favorite, bro, to win the Heisman, in my opinion. If he don't win the Heisman this year, it'll genuinely be because he just doesn't finish off the season because of injury. Because the level that brother is playing at right now, man, all the receiving yards he was able to get, he caught a touchdown early in that game, and then what I really love, man, the highlight of that game was seeing that interception that he got. And when he did the Heisman post, he already
Yeah,
know
the
what.
Heisman.
That's what I'm saying, bro. He already know what time it is too. So, and I will say this: I love Deion Sanders, bro. Um, and going into this season, I feel like a lot of people were kind of really sleeping on Colorado. They had so many, they got all these different, new players from the transfer portal. People had a lot of questions about what they were going to do this year. They only ended up winning 4 games last year. Bruh, Colorado is 4-1 right now. And right now in the Big 12, bro, there's been a lot of other teams that have kind of underperformed. Of course, they have they have a tougher schedule going forward, but bruh, a 4-1 Colorado team with arguably the Heisman Trophy front runner right now is gonna be very scary and something to monitor going forward. And honestly, bruh, it just seems like the Colorado, like their entire program, their confidence is just continuing to build from week to week. So that's something to monitor too. And just shout out to Deion Sanders and them boys down in Boulder, Colorado, man. Like
Hey,
I'm loving what I'm seeing right now.
but to that point though,
Mm-hmm.
because I mean I'm buying it, but
Yeah,
they started out hot last year and all the attention got on them and then they fell off.
yeah.
What's different this year to you?
I would say just the comfortability. Like I said, I know they have a whole lot of transfers, but their offensive line has actually started to play better, outside of whenever they lost to the Cornhuskers early on this year. So I'm gonna allude to that. But also too, like it's not like they've had a crazy run game, but they've also been able to establish more of a run game than they did last year. And then I'll just be honest, like I said, it's the confidence and the comfortability. Like Shador Sanders looks way more comfortable and more confident than he did last year. And then also too, bro, like I'm gonna throw this out there as well. They also have one of the best receiving cores right now in all college football between Will Shepard, between Horn, between Travis Hunter, bro. Like you name me a better wide receiver trio right now in college football. There's not many. So I feel like the combination of that, they're also like you can tell like they have a brand new offensive coordinator, but like he's simplifying the offense more for Colorado. Like they're overall playing a balanced game. You can tell like a lot of the players have bought into what Deion's trying to put out there on the field from week to week. So I feel like that's the biggest difference, and I feel like they're not even. I feel like they had way more pressure last year than they do even this year. Like with them being in the Big 12 with all the other teams, I feel like I said, people have kind of been sleeping on Colorado from week to week. So they've already overperformed and exceeded expectation, in my opinion. And it'll be interesting to see if they can keep this up, throughout the rest of the season as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well I got something for you.
Okay.
So I'm gonna give you a name And then because we saved the Alabama Georgia game, we're gonna talk about that in detail. But
Yeah.
to hit these next couple people, I'm gonna give you a name, and I want you to give me a 1 to 2 sentence just summary recap of how you feel about what they did last week.
Okay.
All right, Cam Ward.
That brother's special, but they got hold at the end of that game against Virginia Tech. I'm gonna just leave it at that.
All right, Jeremiah Smith.
That brother's special. Ohio State top 3 in the nation right now, and I don't know if people saw that one-handed snag that he made, but that brother's special.
Okay, and lastly, Arch Manning.
Arch Manning, bruh. Um, Dang, it's gonna be tough to keep this to 2 sentences. That brother's balling out, and we talked about this last week. I just feel bad for him that now, bro, like he's about to go right back to the bench with Quinn Ewers potentially coming back this upcoming week. But shout out Arch Manning, bro. That's another special brother too. And I'm looking forward to what he can do next year whenever he just has the full, key to the team.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So now that we're here, we've covered everything else. Alabama, Georgia.
Bruh. Honestly, that was one like the hype surrounding that game was absolutely outrageous. Like I watched College Game Day on Saturday, bro, and just all the hype leading up to that game. It being the first Alabama Georgia matchup. Not having Nick Saban on the sideline as a coach. Just all the different storylines that went into that game. And honestly, bro, that game over delivered. Like first, I was rooting for Alabama to win that game, but I gotta give a huge shout out to Georgia, bro, and Kirby Smart and Carson Beck and what they were able to do, bro. Like they easily could have just folded and just given up on that game. Already started looking towards next week, but the fact that they came all the way back and took the lead with a little over 2 minutes left, bro, like that's just like I said, you can never count Georgia out, and that's why they're always, if they're not ranked number 1, they're in the top 3 from year to year, bro. Shout out to Kirby Smart. But to the Alabama side, bro, I gotta give a huge shout out to Jalen Milroe. Like he's also right now, I think he's number 2 behind Travis Hunter, in my opinion, for the Heisman race right now. But he's another quarterback similar to Shedeur Sanders, bro. You can just see the progression even from last year. Like last year, I feel like he just didn't have as much confidence, throwing the ball. But it's like you can see now that brother can make any throw. He has the arm talent. He has the arm strength, bro. Like he's a special player, bro. And I feel like a lot of teams, bro, watching that Georgia Alabama game, a lot of NFL scouts are probably like, oh man, he might be a top 3 to 5 quarterback taken next year. I know he wasn't projected to go as high, but like he could be a Lamar Jackson type of scenario where he ends up getting drafted very late in like the first round, even maybe who knows second round with some of the different quarterback names in this upcoming draft, and just be a steal for a team. But he looked very, very comfortable, very poised. I know he didn't put up as many, stats in the second half of that game, but the way he was able to go and give them that huge lead in the first half, and then the highlight of the night, man, the 17-year-old kid Ryan Williams, bruh. Honestly, that play that he made on the sideline, that was honestly, not only was that probably one of the best plays I've ever seen in a college football game, but just a football game in general, bro. Like the body control to be able to make that play, bro. Especially at that time of the game, like if he doesn't make that play, bro, and Alabama doesn't drive down the field, like Georgia might have literally, closed off making that miraculous comeback. So even that spin move that he made, bro, and the brother is 17 years old. Like
Yep.
the brother reclassed to come play at Bama. Like that's insane.
All his friends are taking like calculus in high school right now.
Bro, this brother can't even go drink after the game, but making plays like that, like that's outrageous. Brother
They said he
17.
had 3 handles on the football field, and it's
Bro,
like
I saw that.
so accurate.
Bro, that's what I will say about Alabama too. It's just like why they're gonna be so scary long term. Like, bro, like they have so many weapons like Ryan Williams, bro, that like don't even get shine from game to game. Like he had 170 yards in that game, and trust me, in that second half, Alabama needed every yard, bro. So
Yep.
going forward, bro, and that's why I just love the new college football playoff format, bro. Now having the more teams just gonna make going forward Alabama, Texas, some of these other teams very interesting. But I'm praying, bro, that we can get part 2 of Georgia and Alabama at some point this year, bro. Whether it be the SEC championship game or something like that, we gotta get part 2 of that game because that was one for the ages.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
But another thing that I'm gonna be praying for is Rashee Rice as we move over to the NFL.
Yep.
That looked pretty gross.
Bro, and I'm gonna be honest, like we were talking about the Chiefs in episode one. I will say this, bro. I gotta tip my hat off to Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. In spite of like, they already lost Pacheco. Now they're already saying like, we're praying for the best, but most people believe that it's actually a torn ACL for Rashee Rice. So if that's the case, they're gonna be without him for the rest of the year. But, given all that, bro, the Chiefs are 4-0 right now. And like I
Yep.
said, granted, last week there are about two games I feel like that they should have lost. They should have lost to the Ravens and the Chiefs, in my opinion. But I mean, my fault to the Bengals. But right now, bro, they're sitting at 4-0. One thing I will say is, bro, like they're gonna start getting some dudes back later in the year. They might not get Rashee Rice, but Pacheco's projected to come back week 8. They'll still get Clyde Edwards-Helaire back. They'll still probably get Hollywood Brown back, around December, January of next year. Man, I will say this, but I'm throwing this out there now. I would not put it past the Chiefs to go out there and trade for a wide receiver at the deadline. Like, I could easily see them trying to go get DeAndre Hopkins or a Michael Thomas or somebody like that, like a veteran. And trust me,
Yep.
bro, you put DeAndre Hopkins or Michael Thomas or God forbid, because this another name that's been floating out there. Could you imagine if they get Devontae Adams?
I know
Lord
you're
have
gonna say that.
Lord have mercy.
Yeah.
So it's like, bruh, what I've learned is that, like, of course, I don't want the Chiefs to win this year, but you can't count out a reigning, and back to back Super Bowl champion team like the Kansas City Chiefs. And I will say they already have a 4-0 start. So as long as they can, continue to win regular season games and just put themselves in a position to where they're in the playoffs, like I don't care what seed. I don't even care if they're in the wild card. Nobody wants to play the Chiefs in the playoffs, bro.
Yeah,
Especially,
no.
yeah. And
No.
it's like I've also learned too, bro. Like not to doubt Patrick Mahomes. Like people can say what they want about Patrick Mahomes, boy. That brother, he's gonna produce, bro. And it's like honestly now, in my opinion, because we were talking about this last week. All this does is, bro, it just puts a little bit more pressure on Travis Kelce, right now, being, he can actually go back to being like, the number one option right now for the Chiefs. And it's like, that's not a bad thing. You've seen all the success that, Mahomes and Travis Kelce have had over the years. So I'm not going to count the Chiefs out right now. I mean, I feel bad for them with their injuries, but I think they'll be just fine.
That's true. I'm
Yeah.
glad we're moving on. Not to get
Hmm.
on my soapbox, but I had Rashee Rice and Pacheco on my fantasy team, so I'm a little hurt. But
Prayers up, bro.
uh,
Godspeed.
thank you, sir. But next up, we can go ahead and talk about Ravens Bills if you want.
Oh yes, bro. Bro, I had that game literally like yesterday out of all the and of course, like, if most people watch episode 1, if you know me, I'm a huge Lamar Jackson fan. And like I said, I'm rooting for the Ravens to win the Super Bowl this year. But that was a game I had circled on my calendar yesterday. And the fact that the Ravens came out and delivered, bro, like it was a complete effort, bro. Like Lamar Jackson. But I don't want to ramble go all over the place, but this is what I was alluding to last week, bro. When the Ravens decide they want to run the ball, they're virtually unstoppable, bro. Lamar Jackson he had a rushing touchdown. He threw for 2 touchdowns. He only had 156 passing yards, bro, and they won 35-10 against the Bills. And why that's such a big win is because, bro, heading into that game, the Bills were 3-0, and a lot of
Yep.
people outside of Sam Darnold had Josh Allen as their MVP pick right now, throughout the first 3 weeks. So the fact that Lamar Jackson and them were able to come out there, and huge shout out to that defense, bro. Kyle Hamilton balled out, Marlon Humphrey balled out, but the guy that really stood out to me was Kyle Van Noy, bro. Like that man has found a resurgence right now. After playing for the Dolphins, and he had some time with the Patriots, but that brother's looking young and fresh right now, bro, and very spry for the Baltimore Ravens defense. And I will say this, going forward, the only concern I have about the Ravens is, bruh, like, will they get in their own way? And the reason why I say that is, like, even last year, I keep alluding to it, but whenever they played the Chiefs, they got away from running the ball. But like last night, bro, when they decided to run the ball, like Derrick Henry, 199 rushing yards, bro, and
Yeah.
87-yard tutty, bro, on the first offensive drive for the Ravens. Like when they decide they just want to put him in the I form, bro, put a fullback back there, bump all the zone read crap, bro. I'm telling you, they're virtually unstoppable. And then another name too that people don't even realize that's on the Ravens, bro. Whenever Derrick Henry gets tired, Justice Hill, that brother's a speedster. Like the Ravens have so many offensive weapons, bro. Like, bro, even I saw a stat last night. Mark Andrews has 7 catches on the year right now, bro, in 4 games now, and the Ravens are still winning games, bro. And like
That's
even
crazy.
last night, bro, Zay Flowers, he didn't even get a touchdown, and they won by 25 points. So, of course, like if you have Zay Flowers and some of these Raven players on your fantasy team, I feel bad for you. But someone like me that had Derrick Henry, like if the
Mm.
Ravens run the ball, bro, they're going to, bro, like I don't see a team beating them. Like
You
if
know what it's like?
yeah,
Like whenever LeBron decides to like drive to the rim and not settle for jump
yep.
shots, it's the same thing.
That's a great comparison, bro. And that's my only concern with the Ravens long term, bro. It's just like when they start trying to do fancy stuff and turn Lamar Jackson into a 350-yard pocket passer. He can do that. Don't get me wrong, but it's like everybody clearly sees a recipe for success and the formula that's gonna allow them to win a Super Bowl this year. Just run the doggone football, bro. Don't make it
Yep.
fancy. Don't make it complicated, bro. I'm gonna keep it a stack with you. If the Ravens continue to play like that, and God forbid, like they don't have injuries like the Chiefs, they might win the next 6-7 games in a row. Looking at their schedule, because I don't see any defense in the league right now, whether it be the Steelers, some of these top teams. They can't stop the run, bro. Like you can't stop Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson in that backfield, bro. It's disgusting. But yeah, I'm
Yeah,
gonna
it's
stop
something
it there on the
different.
Ravens because I'll keep talking.
Well, next up we got Bucks and the Eagles.
I'm gonna be honest, bro. I'm very alarmed for the Eagles fans right now, just the Eagles in general, because the most important relationship you can have on the offensive side is between the head coach and the quarterback. It doesn't look like Nick Sirianni or Jalen Hurts are on the same page right now. Like seeing some of the comments that I heard, Jalen Hurts make in the media press conference yesterday was just those are very alarming. Like that's not the type of stuff you want to hear if you're an Eagles fan. And I will say this, like I'm gonna cut him some slack. It's like he didn't have AJ Brown, he didn't have Devontae Smith yesterday, but where I put a lot of this on Nick Sirianni is just like, bro, like you have a new offensive coordinator in Kellen Moore, and people are gonna be like, well, he took him to the Super Bowl 2 years ago. It's like, bro, what have you done since then, though? Like, bro, they had the recipe for success, that Super Bowl run. He was a fresh new head coach. But then on top of that, like you let go of your defensive coordinator, your offensive coordinator, and I'm gonna be honest, like him as a head coach has looked pretty pedestrian since some of these defensive coordinators and offensive coordinators have left. Since that Super Bowl run. And I will say this, like even watching that game, bruh, there was a point in the game where the Buccaneers had 255 offensive yards. Guess how many the Eagles had to match that?
How many?
Zero. Bro, they had 0 offensive yards while the Buccaneers had 255 offensive yards in that game at one point. That's unacceptable. And it's like, bro, you can at least get 3 to 10 yards on the ground with Saquon Barkley. I mean, why'd you bring him in? It's like,
Yeah.
bro, like the games that the Eagles have won this year, they've been able to establish a run early with Saquon Barkley. They weren't able to do that yesterday. My thing is, it's like, bruh, coming into that game, you already don't have A.J. Brown. You already don't have Devontae Smith. You have to run the football and try to make it easier on Jalen Hurts. I'm not going to let him off the hook because he's also turning the football over at an egregious rate. But I will say, though, long term, bruh, I just don't see, like, I'm going to be honest. They might mess around and not even win that division. Like the Commanders might mess around and win that division the way they're looking right now.
That'd be nasty.
But bro, I'm gonna be honest. The Eagles they better fix this fast because their schedule's not getting any easier. They already have a load of injuries, especially too. Their best offensive lineman Lane Johnson was out yesterday. So like I said, I'm gonna cut him some slack. But what I'm seeing from Nick Sirianni, bro, like what he's putting out there on the field, I'm very concerned for the Eagles and Eagles fans going forward, bro.
How hot is his seat to you right now?
Um, uh, that's a good question. It's almost at the point where his seat is gonna be hotter than a Playboy model, bro. Like, bro, his
That's
seat,
crazy.
bro, his seat gonna be hotter than a Playboy model eating Takis, bro. Like he's approaching that, bro. He's approaching that status, bro. Because I'm telling you, bro. Like I said, like I said at the start of the question, bro. The most important relationship on the offensive side of the football, bro, is the relationship between the quarterback and the head coach. And it's like they're not on the same page. Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni are. And I'm gonna be honest, bro. it's approaching that status where it's just like you can tell the players aren't motivated to play for that man. And when you have those two things going against you, bro,
That's
it might.
dangerous.
That's what I'm saying, bro. It might be time for him to just go and get up out of Philly, bro. Like I'm just and like I said, I don't see this getting any better, bro. Like they have a very tough schedule going forward, and they already have a load of injuries, so it's just gonna be something to monitor, the next couple weeks.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about the Chiefs a little bit, so I mean, unless you wanted to dive into that Chargers Chief matchup, we can go to Jets Broncos and then wrap it up.
Yeah, Jets Broncos, bro. I'm gonna be honest, bro. Like, and I wasn't really too high on the Jets coming into this season. I do still feel like though they have enough talent to potentially make the playoffs, but bro, you cannot lose that game to Bo Nix and the Broncos yesterday, bro. I don't know if you saw this stat, but at halftime, Bo Nix had -9 offensive yards, and they still found a way to lose that game. That is unacceptable. And I get it. People are gonna say, well, that was a rain game. It was already gonna be a messy game. But it's like, bruh, what do you do when you're an offensive team and you know it's gonna rain? You don't try to you don't try to air the football out and just throw the football, bro. You run the ball. They have arguably a top 3 to 5 running back in the entire NFL in Breece Hall, and they failed to allow him to get into open space yesterday. It's like that's unacceptable. And I get it. Aaron Rodgers didn't have the best game. He even admitted it in the press conference. Like he made some very bad decisions, some very bad throws that like we're accustomed to being able to see Aaron Rodgers make. But I just will say this, bro. Robert Saleh is another coach that's honestly approaching being on that hot seat, bro. Because
Hmm.
last year he had the excuse. I mean, in the past 2 seasons, Aaron Rodgers got hurt first game last year, but he had to deal with Zach Wilson. But it's like, bruh, like you have all the talent in the world. Like that offense, you have Mike Williams, you have Garrett Wilson, you have Breece Hall, you have Aaron Rodgers. Which I mean, you saw the way he looked last week. Before this game yesterday against the Broncos. So it's like he's running out of excuses. The one thing I will say though that I saw that was a positive for the Jets and why I'm just not gonna completely just rule them out of like making a run is two things. First of all, I trust Aaron Rodgers. He's been here before. And then second off, it's like their defense is actually still playing really well. I mean, Robert Saleh's a defensive guy, coming over from the 49ers pedigree, but the Jets defense is doing what they need to do. It's just I'm very concerned about their offense, bro. And going forward, bro, like if they don't start making some changes quick because they're losing games that they should win, bro. Like there's no way in the world you should lose to a Denver Bronco team when Bo Nix has -9 offensive yards at halftime. That can't happen, bro. So it's like, and also too, they literally like I just mentioned, the Jets defense did their job. They held the Broncos to 10 points, bro. It's like you got to be able to get over that hump on offense, bro, and put at least 12, 13 points on the board, bro, and win that game. So I'm not just gonna completely say like I'm fully out on the Jets, but if they continue to lose games like this that they should win, Robert Saleh is approaching the hot seat. So we'll see.
I feel you.
Yeah.
Well, moving on, I gotta know what moves the needle for you this week, Jay.
Okay, so two things move the needle. First off, I gotta give a huge shout out to Jaden Daniels, bro. What that brother is doing right now down in Washington, bro, is very special. And like I mentioned earlier when we were talking about the Eagles, bro, the Cowboys and Eagles keep playing around. They gonna let this rookie, bro, who's honest, I'm just gonna go and throw it out there now as my pick to get Rookie of the Year. They're gonna let this brother mess around and, bro, win that division in his first season. But what Jaden Daniels has been able to do so far, bro, not only with like, because, coming out of LSU, a lot of people were just, thinking he's just going to be like one of those runner type of quarterbacks. But you saw this past week on Monday night against the Bengals, bro. That was one of the best single performances I've ever seen from a quarterback. And the fact that he's doing that at such a young age, bro, like that was his third game being an actual NFL quarterback. He looks very comfortable. He looks poised. And I got to give a huge shout out to Cliff Kingsbury, bro, because people forget, bro, he wasn't the best head coach with the Arizona Cardinals, but, he's a quarterback's guy. Like, he coached Kyler Murray his rookie year. He coached Johnny Manziel whenever he won the Heisman. He also coached Patrick Mahomes, and seeing what he's been able to do and how he's been able to use Jaden Daniels' strengths to be able to allow the Commanders to win football games, bro. Like the Commanders are going to be a very scary team going forward, and Jaden Daniels is one of the two people that's moving the needle for me this week. And then second, who's moving the needle for me this week, bro, is Ashton Genty, bro. This brother right now, Brennan, I feel like a lot of people have already seen the, thing on Twitter. When I first saw it, I thought it was faker than the Kardashian. But this brother has 845 yards, 13 touchdowns in 4 games. Like, bro, that is
Ridiculous.
that is absolutely unheard of, bro. And I'm gonna just be honest with you, like, I don't necessarily know if he's gonna end up winning the Heisman, but Boise State's another team where it's just like I always say this: these teams that can run the ball, bro, they're very dangerous. So shout out to Ashton Jeanty, bro. And it's gonna be interesting to see if because bro, there's just look outside looking in. There's no way in the world this brother can keep up that pacing, but who knows? Because I mean, I never would have thought I would be up here saying that somebody has 845 rushing yards and 13 tutties in 4 games. Like, that's like road to glory NCAA stats.
Turn down
bro.
the sliders.
That's what I'm saying. Like, this man playing on rookie mode, bro. Like, that's insane. But those are the two that's moving the needle for me this week.
Smooth. All right. Well, Jay's not here. The other Jay.
Yeah.
So we only got one set of Monday night and Thursday night predictions, but go ahead and give me yours.
For sure, I'll make it quick. So tonight we have the Dolphins playing the Tennessee Titans, and pretty shockingly, bro, I'm actually gonna rock out with the Miami Dolphins tonight. I feel like Tyler Snoop Huntley's gonna play well enough for them to win, and I also feel like I know Raheem Mostert's gonna be out, but I feel like Devon Achane is gonna have a really good game, and I also feel like he's also had a very slow start to the season, but I feel like Tyreek Hill is gonna have a very solid game as well. And then the other Monday Night Football matchup is the Lions versus Seahawks. This is honestly a very tough one for me to pick, but I am just going to rock out with the Lions this week. I feel like they're going to be able to control time of possession, be able to run the ball between Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. And if they do that, I do feel like DK Metcalf will have a good game, but overall the Lions will end up closing that game out. And then for the Thursday night football game, we have the Falcons and the Buccaneers, two teams that are coming off of, really good wins. Shout out Younghoe Koo, man, that game-winning field goal he had yesterday. But my pick for that game, I'm actually gonna rock out with the Birds. I'm gonna pick the Atlanta Falcons to win that game. So honestly, all three very intriguing matchups that can go either way. But those are my picks for this week.
My bad picks. We'll see how they shake out next week.
Yes, sir.
But that's it. That's all we have in the slate. So you want to wrap it up for us, Jay?
Yeah, appreciate everybody that tuned into today. And, bro, last thing before I leave, man, I was devastated when I heard this news early. But, bro, rest in peace to Dikembe Mutombo, man. NBA Hall of Famer, but not only was he a great basketball player, but an even better person. So, my thoughts and exactly, bro. My thoughts and prayers just go out to his family right now. The entire Mutombo family. All his friends and loved ones. So. Rest in peace and just nothing but respect and love for Dikembe Mutombo and his legacy. But yeah, appreciate everybody that tuned into the podcast this week, bro. And like I said, hopefully next week on episode 3, my dad will be back.